Today I'm going to walk you through step by step and how to build your very own Gaga Ball pit using little more than PVC, some basic connectors that you can find at pretty much any shop, a little bit of glue to hold it together, and some basic nuts and bolts. Overall, the cost of this pit will run you about $300 for the supplies itself, and you should be able to build it in little less than half of a day, depending on your experience with tools and working with such PVC pipe. It's something that anybody can do, and it's much less costly than a $5,000 or $4,000 Gaga pit that you may see online. So before we get started, take a look at the shopping list, and let's head to our local store and start.
So here's your materials list. The first thing you'll notice is I've broken it out by what you'll be buying at the hardware store. These are common items you should be able to find at a hardware store. And then a couple items that you'll have to get online. Let's go ahead and go through them. First, you'll need 22 10-foot sections of the 1-inch PVC. Now this is the 40 gauge PVC, which is a little bit thicker and should be much more sturdy for the build. The next is a T-joint. You'll need 52 of those, 1 inch, and these are the slip, slip, slip. They're a slip joint on all three sides, as opposed you'll find some that have screw joints. We're not looking for those. You want the one that are the slip joint all around. The next is the 4-way PVC joint right here. This is a 4-way that'll go in the middle of each of your side panels. You'll also need some PVC cement, and you'll notice that it comes in both a primer and glue package. I found some for around $8 that work great. You will need 1/4 inch flat washers. You'll need two 25 packs. You'll actually need about 40 of them, but they come in a 25 pack, so get 2 of those. You'll need 10 2-packs of grade 5 1/4 inch size 20 4-inch hex cap screws. And then you'll need 20 1/4 inch size 20 nuts. These last 3 items work together. These are going to be the things that you use to actually attach all the panels together. And I'll show you that later in the video. Online, you're going to order 5 6x6 foot sections of netting, and I'll walk you through that as well. And then you're going to need, I recommend doing 400 packs of 6-inch ball bungees. And as I'll show you how to order those in this video as well, they run about $18 per 100 pack. You can also get duct tape. I recommend getting 4 60-yard rolls of duct tape. This way you can add some color to your Gaga Ball pit. And if you want, you can also get some Valspar spray paint. Again, spray paint doesn't work very well. It can kind of scratch off, but it does add a nice coat, and it is pretty easy to reapply. So all told, with the non-optional accessories, the non-optional materials, you're looking at just over $300. And then if you're adding some color to it, you add a little bit more cost to it. So it would be about $357 according to my calculations, total all in. Let's take a look at how to order materials online. One of the items that you will have to order online is the netting. The website that I use is from a provider called Gourock.com. Simply go to www.gourock.com. Once you get to the home page, you'll simply click on netting, scroll down to netting by the square foot, and scroll down to the section that has 1 3/4 inch mesh. Now, I've used both the number 12 right here, which has 116 pound strength, and the number 21 before. I've actually built pits with both of these. I can tell you this number 21 is a little more expensive. It's 30 cents per square foot, but it is much sturdier. Now, with that said, I've also built it with the number 12, the 24 cents per square foot netting, and that has worked fine with 8 and 9-year-olds. I would recommend, if you can afford it, to go ahead and use the sturdier netting, the number 21. However, for today, I'm simply going to show you how to check out with the 24 cent. So click to buy. It'll bring you to this page. Now remember, we have 10 sides to our decagon. What I'm recommending is ordering 5 6-foot by 6-foot sections. And the reason for that is, if you read right here, the minimum that you can order is a 4-foot width. That means you cannot order a 6-foot by 3-foot section, which is what you would be using for all of your side panels. So if you order 5 6-foot by 6-foot sections, you can simply cut them down the middle, and that will give you enough netting for each of your side panels, as well as some left over, because the entry and exit panel don't need the full 6-foot by 3-foot section. So you'll have a little bit of netting left over in case one of your other nets gets torn or starts to wear. You'll have an extra. So enter 5 6-foot by 6-foot sections into the dimension. Make sure that you are on square cut for this top box. And then under your quantity, 6-foot by 6-foot is 36, and we're ordering 5 of those sections. So that is 180. So you will type in 180 into this quantity. Simply click Add to Cart, and it'll give you your total. So as you can see, it's going to cost you around $55 to have this netting shipped to you, and I'm assuming that you're in the continental U.S. The shipping and handling may move up a little bit or down based on where you're located. But around $55 is what you will need for the netting, and it will take a couple weeks to get it to you. One of the items that I could not find at any local store, well, at least for a price that I thought was reasonable, is the ball bungees. Now, the ball bungees are what you're going to use to attach the netting to each of your side panels and to your entry and exit panels. And you will need about just over 300 of them. To be safe, I would recommend ordering 400. That will give you plenty of extras. Obviously, adding more is going to add to your cost. You can get away with 300 exactly, but you will use every bungee if you lay them out the way that I recommend in this video. So to be safe, I recommend ordering just over 300. Now, the cheapest place that I've found is to find them on eBay. So simply go to eBay, ebay.com, type in 6-inch ball bungee, and you're going to look for a 100-pack of them. Okay, the 100 packs generally cost around $17 or $18. So you can scroll down until you find one that cost about that. Here we have a 100-pack for $14. That's actually a better price than I've seen before. So here we have 6-inch white ball bungee, 100-pack for $15 each. Now, what I would recommend doing is ordering 4 of them. But again, like I said, if you want to order 3 and save the additional $15, then that's up to you. Just remember that you are going to use every ball bungee. I recommend going 4 because it will give you a few extras. This particular seller also has free shipping, which means that for 4 of these, you're going to pay roughly $60. Go ahead and get these ordered. As soon as they get here, you can start attaching your netting to the side panels. If you choose to add some color to your Gaga pit by using duct tape, The least expensive duct tape that I've found comes in a 60-yard roll, and it can be found on Amazon.com. Simply go to Amazon.com and type in duct tape, and then the seller is called Pro Tape. And here you can see that it comes in all kinds of colors. Each of these is a 60-yard length, and you can get it from around $7 to $6, and generally you can get free shipping on orders over $35. So this is the seller, and this is where I would recommend that you get the duct tape if you're going to be using duct tape to add some color to your particular Gaga pit. There is a blue. This is the one that I used on the one in the video. So again, it's about $7. If you're a Prime member, you can get it free shipping. Otherwise, it's if you order more than $35, you can get the shipping free as well.
Welcome back from shopping. Now that you've got your materials, the first thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to start cutting all of the PVC into 3-foot sections. It'll look about like this when you're done. So what we're going to do first is take each of your PVC tubes and mark it at 3 feet. Then make the cut. I've been using a chop saw. I find that to be a very easy and safe way to do it. If you do not have a chop saw, you can also use a regular saw, or you might be able to ask your hardware store if they would actually be able to cut the sections for you. By the time you're done, you should have 64 of these 3-foot sections. Let's get started. One hint you can use to get you started is if you have a board or something to put down at the bottom, you can push all of the tubes against the board. That way it's a little faster when you actually start measuring them and marking them. Simply go to 36 inches. Now you're ready to make your cuts. Make sure also that you use proper protective equipment, especially if you're using power tools. So we're almost done cutting. We've now gone through and made 64 sections, each 3 foot. That will work great for each of the side panels and for parts of the entry panels. However, the side portions of the entry panel will need an additional cut. Let's go ahead and do that now. As you can see, I've pulled 4 of the 3-foot sections. These will serve as the side joints of the entry and exit panels. However, because we're going to have an additional T-joint in there, we're going to actually need to remove a little part of each when we make a cut. The reason for this is, inside each of these T-joints has a stopper. This keeps it from going too far in. If we simply made a cut and put it in this way, this joint would not line up with the other panels. So what we need to do is take about 1.5 inches out of the center of each of these. The way that I do that is simply mark the 18-inch, which is right in the middle, and then go 3/4 of an inch on each side. We will cut these sections out when we actually put it on the T-joint. That way these side panels for the exit and entry panels will line up with the full-size panels. So as you can see, here are the places, the section that we're going to take out. It's marked. When you actually line it up, you want this red mark here to line up on the inside of the saw blade when you do your cut. Same thing, we're taking this section out that will be replaced by the width of the T-joint. So as you can see, I went ahead and assembled the side joints, the sides, to the entry and exit panels. And the reason is because I wanted to finish the thought of why we were taking 1.5 inches out of that middle section. Remember, we're only doing this for 4 of these 3-foot panels, and each of these will be the side pieces to the entry and exit. Basically, they will fit like this. There will be a 3-foot section that goes in the middle, and this will be the panel where the kids and players can enter and exit. But to finish the thought, the reason that we had to take that 1.5 inches out is if you didn't, when you put this panel in, it would be too high. It would be 1.5 inches high. And the reason is because this joint, these 2 pieces do not touch in the middle. There's a gap in there of about 1.5 inches. When you take that 1.5 inches out, they're flat. And that means that they're even and they will line up once you start putting all of the panels together. As you can see, I went ahead and assembled all 4 side joints for the entry and exit panel. Now I'll talk later about how to actually put the primer and the glue in there, but if you're familiar with it, go ahead and do that at this point. Each of these should line up equally. Since we started on the entry and the exit panels, let's go ahead and finish off these sections. First, you'll see what I did is I've laid it out the way that we are going to assemble it in just a second once we actually glue it in. You see it's got the 2 original side sections that we just did on each side, and we've added a 3-foot section in the middle and a 3-foot section at the bottom. Even though we're going to have T-joints at the top, we are not going to put a section there because that will be where the players step over and step out to get in and out of the pit. So we have a T-joint at the top, we have a T-joint in the middle that we've already glued into our sections, and we're going to have a T-joint at the bottom. What this does is it's going to give us a little bit of room down at the bottom so that we're not sitting on the ground. Eventually, if you want, you can add some stoppers in here, which will be great if you're going to use it inside. But see, we've got 2 T-joints at the bottom, 2 T-joints at the top, and we're going to go ahead and glue our sections in so that it'll look just like this. I'll go ahead and show you how to actually glue if you've not used a PVC primer and glue yet. There are likely a number of ways to actually use the primer and the glue, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the way that I've been using as I've been building these pits, and it's proved to be a pretty solid way to attach the 2 of them. This is not just a glue. If you use the primer and you use the PVC glue, it actually creates a chemical reaction that bonds the pieces together. In fact, I've been told by many people that if this thing should ever break, it's more likely to break at the centerpiece than it is at the actual section where you've glued them together. So what I do is I use the purple part, I use the primer on this piece here, on the smaller of the 2, and simply go in circles until I've covered approximately 1 inch from the tip. Next, I put the glue on the inside of the piece that I'll be bonding it to. And you can be generous with the glue, obviously. Then it's simply a matter of twisting it until you get it set. Now, a couple notes. You want to make sure, because it sets very quickly, you want to make sure for this particular piece that it's lined up correctly, which means flat. Okay, you only have a couple seconds before this bonds completely. So make sure that you twist it, get it into shape very quickly. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the rest of the entry and exit panel, and then we'll show it to you once it's complete. So you should now have the 2 exit and entry panels done. And they should look something like this. Go ahead and put those to the side and we'll come back to them later as we continue our assembly. Let's go ahead and move on to the other 8 sections to see what the other panels will look like. So this is what the remaining 8 panels are going to look like. We've already done our entry and our exit panels. We now need to go ahead and start gluing together each of the 6-foot side panels. So as you can see, each of these are 3 foot. We've basically taken 7 of our 3-foot sections and laid them out. We have T-joints in each of the corners. And notice that the T-joint is facing where this is down. This is the bottom section down here. We have a T-joint up here, which is attaching the cross section and the up and down section. And then we have a 4-joint right here. So as you start assembling the different panels, the 8 side panels, you'll notice that there are a couple pieces that keep coming up. There's a centerpiece, and in the middle of every panel that is used for support. And this centerpiece has a T at the top, a 3-point slip joint, and at the bottom it's got its 4-sided slip joint. As you're putting these pieces together, sometimes it's easier to do all 8 of these at a time. So there will be 8 that look like this that fit in the middle. There will also be 16 on each side, one fitting this way and one fitting this way, that look like this, that have a 3-point at the top where it's coming out of the side and a matching 3-point at the bottom. So again, as you're putting the panels together, I've gotten questions on what's the best way to put them together. Start with the vertical ones up and down, and then you can put the side poles in once the vertical sections are all created. So again, you're going to create 8 that look like this, that will be the center point of each side panel, and you're going to create 16 that look like this, that will go on each side. So you'll have one on this side and one on this side. So as you can see now, I now have made all of the sides to the panels. There's 16 pieces there, as well as all the center support beams for each panel. And there's 8 of those because there's one for each side panel. And here you see again how it's going to fit. This one obviously shows that the centerpiece has already been glued together. Each of the side pieces has been glued together. Now all we need to do is glue in the top beams and the bottom beams so that we'll have one complete side panel done. And now you can see the full panel fully assembled. This is what it should look like. So you're making progress. The next step is we need to assemble 7 more side panels just like this one. Go ahead and do that now. Congratulations. You now have all of your panels done. This is probably the hardest part, probably takes the most time to get to this point, so congratulations for making it this far. So at this point, you should have all 8 of your side panels done, and you should also have an entry, 2 entry, and exit panels. The next step is putting them together, and we're going to bolt the tops of them together up here with a bolt that'll keep them from twisting out of place. So the next step is to figure out a way to attach the poles together. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to drill a hole all the way through both of these top pieces and use a nut and bolt to go through. This will help solidify the section so that it doesn't spin. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you decided we were just going to use bungee cords to hold these sections together. If a child or a ball came and hit them, they would twist and you would lose your structural stability. So the way that we fix that and I'll show you how to do it, is we actually drill a hole all the way through, and we use a nut and bolt that goes through that will hold the angle for each panel. Okay, and we'll actually do one at the top and we'll do one down at the bottom. Now if you think about it, we're building a decagon, right? And that means that each of these, if you were measuring this angle coming out this way and turning this way, it should be, from here to here, should be 36 degrees, because we've got 10 sides, 360 degrees. So each of these has to be 36 degrees. Now what you'll find on your materials sheet is this little printout that I created, and you should be able to simply print it out and cut out the inside circle just to where it touches the red. Now I'll show you how to use this, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to lay this over each piece and we're going to mark the angle of our hole. Now each angle is going to be 18 degrees, and the reason for that is because each side, remember we need 36 degrees total, so each side is going to turn by 18 degrees, and that'll give us the 36 degree total for each side. So in your material sheet you should have had this particular image. It's an image that I've created specifically to use for marking your 18 degree angles here. What you'll need to do is print it. Don't scale it up or scale it down. It should be fairly close to the correct size. And cut the center part out just to where it touches the red line. And it should fit fairly close over your T connector right here. So make sure that the angles are on this side. So you've got an 18 degree angle here and an 18 degree angle here. This green line that starts at 0 and goes to 180 is the line that's supposed to be lined up with your top bar of each panel. And then what you're going to do is take a marker and simply mark. If this is the inside, you're going to mark right here and then all the way across right here. And that gives you your 18 degree off center. So this is, if it was straight, you've now made a mark this way for 18 degrees. Remember, the next one over here will also have an 18 degree, which will give you the correct angle for your decagon. So with regard to how deep, how low to actually mark your hole, now remember we've already done our 18 degree marks, you can see them on here. The question next is, how deep do we drill our hole? Do we put it up here? Do we put it down here? I'm using a 3/4 inch washer here, which actually fits very nicely, assuming that you use the Lasco 1 inch. It actually fits very nicely. So what I can do is simply line the washer up at the top so that it's snug here with the top, and then line it up so that this red line is right in the middle. And what I'm going to do is simply put my mark right there. So go ahead and mark an I for inside and an O for the outside of the pit. Go ahead and mark all of your pieces and start, and I'll show you how to drill the pilot hole and put the full drill hole through it. Now for the pilot hole, I recommend using a fairly small drill bit, probably no more than 1/16 of an inch. The actual bolt that I'm using is a 1/4 inch, so we'll use a 1/4 inch or slightly larger drill bit when we actually put the main hole in. I have a 1/16 inch bit here. What you're going to do is simply drill right through the center here. Now earlier, remember, I actually said that you can use, we're using a 1/4 inch bolt. I said you can either use a 1/4 inch or the next size up. And the reason for that is it depends on how much play you want. If you don't think that you measured everything exactly right, you might want to use something more than simply a 1/4 inch drill bit. I'm using a 1/4 inch drill bit right now, and then I will show you how it lines up. But there's really very little harm in using the next size up, and that will give you a little more play. Now once you put the bolt on here and bolt it down, it doesn't matter if the hole is a little bit too big. You're still going to get plenty of support in there, and that will give you a little more room for error in case your holes don't line up perfectly from panel to panel. So I would recommend using the next size up. It's okay to use something a little greater than a 1/4 inch. Make sure that you're lined up, and it should go all the way through. Remember, if you're finding that they're not lining up perfectly, you can always go back with a little bit larger drill bit and widen the hole a little bit. Again, that 1/4 inch bolt doesn't have to fit too snugly, because once you bolt it down, it'll give you plenty of support. And we are going to use bungees to hold these together. The primary purpose of that bolt is simply to keep it from sliding side to side. So there you have it. Now the holes are ready. They're aligned at the correct angle. You can go ahead and put them together. And like I said, once you actually put your bolt on and tighten it up, it will give you plenty of support. And this keeps, remember how earlier it was moving all around? This keeps the support and keeps it from shifting on itself. Now we're still going to use bungees, but this will hold the angle correctly and will keep it from sliding back and forth. So at this point, why don't you go ahead and drill the pilot holes for all the other pieces and panels. So at this point, I have marked and drilled holes in all the tops of each of my panels, including the entry and exit panels. A word of caution here. Remember what is the inside, and make sure that as you flip this over and start drilling holes in the bottom sides of your panel, that they line up. Okay, and what I mean by that is that you don't have one angle, an inside angle here, like this, and then on the bottom side you drill it this way. It's not a major deal if you do. You can simply re-drill the other direction, but it's much better to get it right the first time. So the way I do that is I have the inside facing the camera. The easiest way to do it is simply to flip it over, okay, lay it down, and as you go to start measuring your angles here and marking them, take a quick glance down at the bottom. Okay, so I see that the bottom, the hole is on this side, on the inside. That way when I do my mark, it serves as another check that I am marking it and aligning it correctly with the holes. So go ahead and get the holes drilled, the tops and bottoms for all the panels, for each of your entry panels and exit panels, and for each of the side panels. And then we'll get ready to, then we'll go ahead and assemble them. All right, the netting has arrived. As you can see, I've laid it out in the section we ordered, which is 6 foot by 6 foot. That was the minimum size. You had to order in at least 4 foot sections, so we went ahead and ordered a 6 foot by 6 foot section. What we need to do now is simply count the boxes from the bottom all the way to the top, and we can cut it right in the middle. And that will give us the netting that we need for one of our panels, actually 2 of our panels, because we'll cut it right in the middle. And then we'll have 2 3 by 6 sections. So as you can see, I've laid out the 3 foot by 6 foot section across one of our full-size side panels. Remember, when I counted across, I counted 39 squares going across. So we want the 20th one to line up right in the middle here with this center pole. Now what I did is I went ahead and put one on each corner just to kind of hold the place. That helps me know how I'm doing as far as lining them up when I go across and start actually putting the bungees on. Another quick note is the way that I set this up, I want the netting on the inside of this. And what I mean is when I set this center up, when we set this decagon or octagon up, I want the netting on the side, the inside, the side where the kids are playing. And the reason is because when they hit the ball against this net, this support beam will provide a little more stability to push the ball back towards them. If it's on the back side, it doesn't get any further support and it's going to put more pressure on the bungees on the side. So I recommend when you're laying these out, remember which is the inside and which is the outside. And that way, make sure the netting is on the inside of this center pole. So as you can see, I've now done all the corners in the center section. I like to do 2 right here on the top and the bottom because that gives it a little bit of tension right here. On the corners, I did one on this bottom right square on the inside and outside, and I've done that for all 4 of the corners of the panel. So now you can kind of see it's starting to get a little bit of tension in there. Now this is something that will be to your preference. If you want, you can go through and add these, and this will depend on how many of the bungees you want to buy and how tight and secure you want the netting to be. If you're playing with younger kids, it's going to be a younger kid pit. You probably don't need the tension quite as strong. If you're going to be playing with kids that can hit it the ball a little bit harder, you probably want more bungees around the side. As a general rule, I like to do about 2 for every foot. So what that would mean is about every 4 of these squares, maybe a little more. So basically I would have 1, 2, 3 additional ones here on each side. So this is what the final panel will look like. As you see, I've put all the bungees on it. I basically have 5 per section here. So 5 for every 3 foot panel. And then I put 4 in the middle to provide a little bit of tension as well in the middle. So that comes out to 34 per side panel. Now here I have one of the entry panels. This is actually the one that I've already painted and put the green tape to indicate this is where I'm entering. The better way to do this is to cut it a 3 foot by 3 foot section and lay the netting over. That way you're just going to be putting bungees along these sides and you would have netting laid over the top here. Now the reason for that is there's going to be kids stepping over and out of this repetitiously throughout the game. If you have bungees that are attached here, they're going to get caught on the kids' shoes, they're going to get knocked off, and it's going to cause this netting to fall down. Plus it saves you from having to use some additional bungees. So what I recommend is cutting a 3 foot by 3 foot section and laying it over and then using bungees to go around the sides. This is not going to be a panel that gets hit with the ball as much as your side panels. So you don't necessarily need to have the bungees connected up at the top for that additional tension in the netting. So remember, I told you earlier when we counted them out, there were 39 squares. What I'm going to do is I'm going to count to the middle one, which is the 20th, cut straight across, and then fold it over. I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. So here's what your final entry and exit panel will look like. As I said, this is the green one. I put the green across the top so that the children can see or adults can see that this is the place where you're entering. I will put red tape across that bar for the exit panel. But as far as the bungees go, you can see I've doubled up the netting. I've laid it across the top. and I've used 2 bungees across the left, and I put 5 across the bottom and then 2 across the right. So that's it. At this point, go ahead, if you've not already done so, and put the netting on your last few side panels and on your remaining entry and exit panel. At this point, you've made everything you need for your Gaga pit. All you need to do is assemble the panels together. So one of the fun things that you can do with your pit as you start finishing it up is adding a little bit of color to it. Now remember, I said earlier that spray paint does not always hold very well. It can be scratched off, it doesn't always stick. Sometimes it doesn't give a real clear coverage on the PVC. However, I don't mind using a little bit of it for highlight with the understanding that it may in fact scratch off, and that's okay. For a better coverage, as I've mentioned, you may want to use duct tape. So as you can see here, I've created a pattern simply by using a little bit of spray paint as an accent color and then covering it with a blue duct tape. The duct tape allows you to use more colors, get a little more coverage, and really add some fun patterns and designs to your particular pit. However, understand that whenever you use duct tape, you are adding a cost to your overall pit. I wanted to give you a little more information now on how I went about finding the tape and actually applying the tape to my side panels. First of all, any old duct tape will work. What I found is that if you go to your major stores, you're going to be paying $5 or $6 for a roll of 10 yards to 15 yards. Obviously that's not enough, or that's going to be very expensive to do your entire pit if you're paying that rate. I've shared with you a link of where I found 60-yard rolls for around $8. That's what I recommend, and it comes in a number of colors. I think I saw an orange on there, a green, a black. Obviously it comes in blue. It may even have some reds or other colors available, but that obviously keeps your costs down should you choose to add color to your particular pit. As far as the actual application goes, what I used here is I used 2 long pieces for each section, for each pole. Okay, so this I'm calling right now a pole or a section. I used 2 about 34-inch pieces. You just pull it out, and I put one on this side, and I put one on this side. Now, it really takes 3. Each of these is about 1.8 inches wide. It really takes 3 pieces to completely cover this, and that's why I said earlier you probably want 4 rolls if you're going to completely cover it in color. I used about 3 because I left a gap for my paint to show through. So you're going to pull off 2 34-inch pieces and put them on one side and on the other side. Again, if you choose to cover it completely, you'd put a 3rd piece right here. Then you're going to use a 4 to 6-inch top piece to wrap the top, and this will cover the edges of your other pieces here. Okay. Again, use your imagination as far as color goes. You may want to use these pieces different colors to add some variety. Make it yours. Okay. Let the kids get involved so that they can also have a say in the design and color. I went ahead and painted these beforehand. Again, as I've said numerous times, paint's not the best with PVC, but it does add a little bit of color. And I've found that trying to use duct tape on the connections here, on the T-joints, is rather difficult simply because it doesn't line up very well. It's not a clean tape when you try and tape over those joints. So I recommend to go ahead and use paint for those. Understandably, they may get scratched, but you can always touch them up as needed. So there you have it. Order your duct tape if you want to customize it, and send me some pictures of what the final colors look like.